Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Man Alone Solo role-playing YouTube channel. So nice to have you. Sorry it took me about 2 years to make this video. It was about 2 years ago that I put up a post saying, hey, coming soon, doing a vid on Colostle. Well, it's finally here. And if you think about interstellar travel, 2 years is an extremely short amount of time. So I have been thinking about this here game all weekend. And I keep thinking about it. And I think about what I like about it and what's really great about it. And I think about what is not bad about it. I don't think there's anything bad about it at all, actually. Just maybe doesn't conform to my tastes or what I look for in a game. I think about ways that maybe I could make some changes to it that would bring it more in alignment with my style of play and what I'm interested in. And then also, I've been thinking just sort of generally, where is the line in which, like you punch up a game, where do you stop and say, hey, maybe instead of like spending all this time to modify this game into what I want, either I go look for a different game or I make my own game. And so in the interest of science, I decided to just ignore that and say, well, I'll just push it to the limit here and see really how long it takes me to crack the code. Because what I just said about, you don't want to change the core of what the game is, that's actually what made this a bit of a challenge, a bit of a fun challenge, but also a bit of a head scratcher at times, which was, how do I add something to this game without corrupting the fundamental appeal of what it is? And with Colossal, there's a special little challenge because one of the core aspects of this game, not even just a way to describe it, it is one of the things about this game, is that it's very rules light, it's very simple, and it's really inviting. And speaking of, if you are perhaps interested in or considering purchasing this game, I would say that this video is broken into two parts. The first half of the video will be to maybe people who are new to Colossal, new to the hobby, thinking about buying it. And then the second half of the video will be more about modifications that I made, reasons I did that. And it'll be a little bit about Colossal, but I'm sure that we'll be able to extrapolate some things just about solo gaming and RPGs in general. And so that's what we're going to do. So I'll give it like a little overview of Colossal. And then I'll talk about like what the game is broadly. And then I'll talk about like how do I say, like, what is this game's place in the hobby? Might be a good way to say it. I'll do a little bit of a buyer's guide, like, because even right here, I have 4 of the books, as well as a notebook, as well as cards. And so if you are considering buying it, do you have to buy all of this to enjoy it? I will go ahead and give a spoiler here. No, you don't. I'll tell you the sort of minimal and maximal purchases if you wanted to give this game a go. And after I do that, I'll do a brief overview on how to play. That will be very brief because it is very rules light. And sort of my review of it. And the review will take it from a couple different directions. I will talk about some things that, like I said, that I like, maybe that I would change if it were up to me, if I had my druthers. But then also just from the aspect of like, is this a good solo game? Is it a good entry-level solo game? Because I think there's a case to be made, perhaps in 2 directions, and we'll get into that. And then after that, then we will introduce what I am tentatively calling Colossal Pro Ed. That's right. And I'm calling it Pro Ed because my brother called it that when he saw this. He said, who's Ed? And I said, you're kidding. Because I couldn't, this is like this little white pen, and it only works when you're making like strokes with it. So I couldn't make a period. I said, who's going to be confused about that? Well, a fully grown adult man in his mid 40s said, Pro Ed. So that's what we're calling it, Colossal Pro Ed. And I'll talk about what Pro Ed looks like. It's still very rules light, but it incorporates a lot of the expansions and things like that. So that piece would be for those of you who, like me, once had dreams of playing this game, but then lost yourself somewhere along the way. I believe I have cracked the code a bit. Now, I think I still need to work some things out, and that's why I'm going to talk it through, but I have the fundamental change that I'm going to make, and if I do say so myself, I think it's quite clever. But before we do any of that, I just want to say welcome to the channel, especially if you are new to the channel. Just so you know, I think this video might have a couple people who are a little bit newer to the channel. Check this out. Just so you know, I do a more of a podcast type video, all right? I don't like editing. I'll do it if I have to, if compelled. If there's a subpoena or a warrant out for editing, I'll do it. But this video will probably be a good litmus test for you. So if you like how this video goes, if you enjoy putting it on the background and folding your clothes, or you're able to watch it at 1.5 speed and clip in and out of it, and you're cool with that, that's probably going to be your experience for most videos. If you want to wring my neck, if you can't stand me, if you feel like, you know, who in the hell do you think you are wasting my time like this? It's never going to change. So just bypass like giving me pointers about, you know, it's fine. You could just save it. You could just save that. And exert it on something more fun. You're probably the type of person that likes to shoot rubber bands at little birds. Go do that. Okay, so but that said, yeah, I guess that's rather than saying smash that like button, I guess what I'm saying is subscribe if it sounds good to you. If not, that's okay. We could just go our separate ways. But on top of that, I also want to say that I am thrilled. I'm very excited. I don't know if I'm thrilled, but I'm very excited to have finally an integrated merch store on the YouTube. You can, on the YouTubes, you can click down below to access it, or it's manalone. Don't worry, whatever. We have a promo code First Mover for 10% off your order between now and June 15th. We got some real great stuff here. If you want to get something that really broadcasts to the people around you, that you are wearing a shirt, this is the shirt to do it. And I also have crew necks, hoodies. Some of them have mugs. I chose all the colors. I do have color blindness, and so I hope it worked. I just know that the contrast works, so that's the big. It goes up to 5XL. I get. Why doesn't it go down that much though? You know, like why doesn't it go 5x small? Like what if there's somebody who's like, it's just not, it doesn't seem fair to me. I know that that's like beyond the limits. Like I'm thinking of a human who's this big, and a fully formed human. They have a job, they're an adult, and they're this big. What am I supposed to say to them? Haven't they had it hard enough and now they can't even get a shirt? Somebody do something about that. Hello? Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, Colossal is usually advertised in two ways. And the first one is it's a solo role-playing game. That's obviously true. That's what this channel is about. It is very often an entry-level recommendation for solo gaming. If you go on to Reddit, it is especially a popular recommendation for people who do not usually solo. And when I say that, I'm not trying to indicate anything. I'm saying like these people don't know what they're talking about. It, for some reason, is a game that if somebody went into like a Pathfinder 2e subreddit was like, hey, does anyone know if it's like possible to role play alone, and they have like no concept of solo role playing as a subreddit of absolutely as they can't even think that it's sort of like a known hobby. Somebody on there will say like, yeah, you can kind of like uh try a couple things. There's some games that are actually like made for this. Like there's one called Colossal, or they'll say Iron Sworn, or Starforged, or Thousand-Year-Old Vampire, Four Against Darkness. It to me, it's one of those that's usually in that rogues gallery from the jump. And then also on that subreddit thread, there's somebody who's like, personally, I don't think solo role playing even is real. And I really love that answer. I cannot tell you how often you see that answer too. It's like, um, it. What is striking about it, and is so awesome, is that it is said with the same paranoid certainty of people who say like no moon landing. It's like, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, solo role playing does not even exist. Excellent. Yes, this is all done in a studio. There's no solo play, just like the moon landing. So, okay. The second thing that it is often advertised as, which is also correct, but I'm the more time that goes on, I'm always like, what is up with this? Is that it's like a card resolution game, and it's true. It is a diceless game, and as much as I love dice, this is approximately 1/200th of my dice holdings. I am a card boy as well. I love cards. These are the cards that you could use for this game. You have just like a standard on-theme playing card deck, and then you have 4 job packs that you could have for different archetypes within the game. And it is a game that uses card resolution. And I would say that card resolution as a mechanic is less common than games that use dice mechanics. I would say it's significantly less common, probably 10%. I would say 5 to 10% of games have no. Yeah, in terms of solo, I would say 5-ish% of games use cards as a resolution mechanic, and an even smaller amount, for those of you who are about to disagree, just hear me out, an even smaller amount only use cards. And so, yeah, it's uncommon, but I think for whatever reason, it's stated as if it's like, what? Cards? Who could possibly use cards to role play? And I'm so confused because there are plenty of games that use cards. I mean, even if we're saying 5%, that's 5% of 4 million or whatever. So, uh, whatever reason that is, I mean, if that appeals to you, great. I don't even know if it's worth saying really, because now I'm kind of being weird in the opposite direction. But I'm just saying that, like, I suppose once upon a time when I first was introduced to this, I thought that was novel. But as time goes on, I'm like, yeah, it uses cards. It's pretty cool that you don't have to use dice for it. But I think also because of that, some people do not feel like they're playing a role-playing game. Very early on, I love the clatter of dice. And so I felt that way. I felt like, oh, if a game uses cards, it's not going to be that real role-playing experience. And that's simply not true. It will not be the same experience, but it's a, I mean, I can attest myself, it is a genuine role-playing experience. As far as what the game is, it is a beautifully illustrated, around 60 pages for the core book here. And it's a combination of an elision of castle and colossus, like huge. And essentially, it is a massive mega structure, a la Synecdoche, New York, where it's like a studio that has the whole world within it. And so each room in this castle is like an entire biome. It might be like a whole mega city or a continent. And I think the map here of the known roomlands, that's what each place is called, does a good job of illustrating this, because this, you could see, looks like a world map. City of Parapet will start right around there. But then you'll get to a place here and it's like a door, right? And it's different rooms and stuff like that. And so um, this map, I just think is for flavor and for some inspiration. You don't have to use this map. I just really like it because one thing about the art of this game, even though, um, again, not like some of it, I really like. Uh, the backgrounds I think are gorgeous. It's very vivid. It's very lush. I love that. Yeah, get a little closer view of that. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. There's a few pictures in here which are just like they're amazing. This one, just getting the vastness and the scale, it just looks so good. There's a black and white one where like a colossal is like winding up. That's really awesome. Oh yeah, here it is. Look at that. Like I want to say when I see that I want to be like righteous. But then there's some stuff that's like it takes me out of it. And the one example of that I'll give is the allied, which is one of the types. It's like, hey, call me old fashioned. I'm not going into battle with this guy. Like if you can't, do you like? I want to say like, do you have to pee before we go to battle? Um, and I don't know what it is, and I think it there's a much larger video in here about the cozites, pro cozies, as I call them, the kazis. They love cozy play. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, okay. So in terms of like a buying guide, again, this is the core book, but this is now, oh, not this one, sorry. Roomlands is now considered the core book. Okay, so it's like when I was little and I told my all my older siblings that I knew how to bake bread, and they said, "Okay, so what are the ingredients?" And I was like, "Okay, water, bread, and flour." And so this is kind of the same thing where it's like the core book is made out of the Roomlands plus the core book equals the core book. But this is considered a sort of necessary supplement. I want to say that to play the game, you don't need this. It's good. It's a good addition, and if you like the game, you should get it. But again, if you just want to boot up a game of Colossal, you can do it with this because for a while, this is all that there was, right? The Roomlands is going to add some additional classes, and it's going to add some locations, and it's going to give two-player co-op rules, which you don't need, a little bit of augmented combat mechanics, and some locations, which are very helpful, especially if you're sort of new to role playing. It might be difficult for you to keep generating like random locations, but you know this has many of those things as well. So really, and I just want to emphasize this is like I think that you should just know what you're wanting to get out of the experience. And there are very few things that I caution people specifically to like to buy or not to buy because it's all comes down to what experience you're looking for. If you're somebody who likes really nice game books and you like having them on your shelf and you like the idea of, you know, paging through them, maybe you'll play them one day, maybe you won't. Or if you're even if you're somebody who really wants to play games, but then you notice that like, ah, darn, you know, that game I've read through it a bunch and I really love how it looks, but I've just never sat down and played it. This game is still fantastic, just as like something to collect because it is beautiful. And I mean, anytime like my nephew visits, he goes right to this. It's just like a super magnetic book. It has like an amazing chemistry to it. Now, additionally, it is very affordable. Okay, and this is 25 pounds, 25 quid. This is 25 quid. And if you get it from the Colossal website, so that's about 30 US, 30, a little over 30 US dollars right now. If you get it from the website, right now, it's 20% off. So that's pretty significant because it would be like 50 pounds. So 20% off would be 10 pounds off. So 40. That's a really good deal. And I mean, you think about it, there's a game that I only bought it because it was on, like, I found it in a 50% sale. But it's a game that is nearly the exact same dimensions and same level of illustration and writing and everything. It's about 14 less pages, and it's $50. And I only got it. I kept looking at it in the store and being like, you ever going to give a discount on this? I'll just say what it is. It's Bleakness by Exalted Funeral, which I'm really excited to play the game. It looks like a cool game, but I just couldn't justify it because it literally was, I mean, it is this size and it's like this many pages and is $50, and this is $30. And so how does that work? And um and also you can't say like, oh well, this is rules light, as if like the rules are, the weight of something. Because if that's true, Burning Wheel should go for $68,000, right? So all I'm saying is it's a fantastic deal. Like, it almost blows me away when I go on there and look at the price. And then again, you have this bundle deal right now. I also see on dungeonland.co.uk that there is this like pre-order for both of these books combined. And it looks like this. It says that it has both of them in one book, and it looks like this: slightly updated illustration, gold leaf letters. And I think it's worth saying this because if I was in this position right now of thinking about buying this, I would go for that. I'd be like, oh, that's the best thing. I get both books. I get this cool new edition. It's all in one. Everything I need. I'll just wait for that. Please send an email to Dungeonland and let me know. Actually, if you can, like, let me know if you know about it, because I'll bring this up actually to show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about here. This is on Dungeonland, which I actually love this website, like the logo for it. And it's been there for a bit, and it looks, like I said, it looks really great. The illustration is a little bit updated, and it has sort of this gold leaf around the edges of it. And again, this one's 30 pounds, so that would be a great deal, but it just says pre-order, out of stock, available for pre-order. And it says this book simply combines book 1 and book 2. And that's it. And so actually, I think there's like no time like the present here. So in fact, I'm just going to email Andy here and just let him know that we're waiting to hear back. Let's say this class of yours will be waiting with bated breath. I think I had text to speech on. And that's good though, because I never know if it's like which baited it is. Sorry. All right, moving on. So yeah, I'll just send this to Andy. Andy looks like somebody who, I'm going to show you Andy right here. Andy looks, yeah, that's Andy. Who's this? Mark? All right. I like Andy better. I need to get to know Mark. It's just that the transitions lenses, they throw me off a bit. Anyways, what is this video? What am I doing this video on? All right, so I'll let you know about any response to that. But yeah, I mean, any which way, you're going to get a pretty good deal. Either get that 20% off, or we'll see if that pre-order, what the deal is with that. But yeah, on the Colossal website, it's I don't see anything about that. And the website too. The website is also incredible for this. I'm sorry, like look at the like what kind of RPG website has this? It's just like so good. It's unreal. Um, Okay. So I just wanted to show you like everything that's available here so that I can go through and just say my thoughts on purchase. So, yes, we understand. Oh, damn it. You got to be kidding me. I just sent the email. This is I'm not even kidding. This was not here earlier today. Well, now it's available wait a minute. Wait a minute. Welcome to the Roomlands. Yeah, so is this the combination? All right, let's just get it over with. Uh, what should I try to get us something? Let's see. Maybe I could say. I'll say. Yeah, I'll let my viewers know. Um, and if you ever want to do like a promo code for them or anything, we really love Dungeon Land. Should I do an X2? Is that right? Or is that weird? I'll put an ellipses and then an exclamation. I'm pretty sure Andy's going to come through for us. I don't know what's telling me that, but Andy seems like a person who is on the level and wants to support, you know, all of you who, as we established in the last video, everyone here who is viewing this suddenly and tragically lost their parakeet last week. So, well, we'll see what Andy says. You know, I'm sure whatever happens, we'll make it through somehow. Okay, so now, with that out of the way, which is nothing, I should just say, in terms of these other two books, these being the optional books and the job packs, you're going to see what those job packs do, because the Colossal Pro Ed is going to utilize those in an interesting way. The idea is, and I can kind of give you a little preview here. The idea with these job packs is that each of them were an additional set of cards that provided some additional functions for what do we want to say here, for different archetypes like the cartographer, and each of them are very different. But I must say, only some of them have like mechanical implications. And as far as I could tell, you're supposed to choose one or the other. But what Colossal Pro Ed does is we're just going to use all of them. Now, like I said, I do have the cartographer cards, which are just like map tiles. We'll use those. And I also have the Roomlander playing cards, which are just playing cards in with the colossal flavor on them. And they're just 52 cards with 2 jokers, which I could have sworn yeah, here's the 2 jokers. And we'll use those. And then for the other decks, just because the way that I want to use them is a little bit different, and also because those are the only ones that like it feels a little tough, even though they're 12 pounds. When you buy them from the UK and the US, 12 pounds, I mean, to just take a step back for a second, that's like 15, 16 US dollars. That's a lot of money for playing cards. I'm not suggesting that that's not a good or fair price. I'm just saying, like, I understand it just is harder to buy something that if it didn't have a certain design or brand on it would cost $2 or something. It's a little harder than getting a book, just in terms of like what you're paying versus what you're going to get out of it. Okay. And the other thing is with shipping, it'd probably be, I think for all of them, it would have been something like 60 pounds plus tax plus shipping. It would have been like 80, 90 US dollars. So you can actually buy a digital content pack. If you're somebody who wants to shuffle and draw them, you're going to have to do some kind of magic. I actually tried to laminate a set of these cards using Mod Podge. I would say it didn't work, but the results were a little better than I thought. I thought it was going to be soggy. Let me see if I can find those, actually. It was very interesting. Yeah, so I Mod Podged them, and I would say, like, in terms of, I printed these out on, seriously, like, my crappy $100 printer. And I would say just in terms of vividness of the color, it looks good. And like the gloss looks pretty good. It's there. That's that. And then it's actually not bad. It's actually not bad. I don't think I would shuffle them. And in fact, I tried to put them in my Oracle shoe. This is our new friend here, by the way. And they just didn't roll out of the Oracle shoe very easily. And so that's what I was hoping to do with them. And no. And then the other side of them would normally be like this, but mine, I just did it on, it was a test thing. But yeah, and then also the rest of them, this was 18 pounds to get all 4 of these with instructions if you get PDF. And they printed out awesome on this side, but then I flipped and printed just like as directed, and there was not a single one of these that had like a correct backing to it. And I think it's because I can almost guarantee you it's a user error. But again, I didn't really need to shuffle them or anything. So we have here the this is the inventor, and these are like different rook parts that you could put together to build constructs. And then we have this one is the researcher, and this one like documents different rooks out in the wild and I guess sells for publication. Yeah, the cartographer, and then this one, the red one, is apothecary, which I think is actually the most interesting and the most mechanically fun, which is you have one ingredient that's like your base ingredient, and then you have to sort of match up by foraging other ingredients that match the color of both of these. And whereas, so that would work. And whereas this top card determines what the effect of it is. For instance, this one's Bulwark Snail. If you are a helmed, 1 dose of this potion increases all your attack card values by +2 for 1 full battle. And this, you would add these up and it will tell you how many doses you got. 2 + 1, so that would be 3 doses. And so we're gonna talk about how I'm going to attempt to operationalize those. But I would say whether to buy them is dependent on this. If you catch them in a game store, as I miraculously have now twice at 2 different stores in the US, which was amazing, but very rare. It's still very rare, but I never thought I'd see the day. They sold out pretty quick. Or if you live in the UK, or if you're like me and you have somebody you love who lives in the UK, and then when you visit their family, you could pick up the stuff you order to their house. That's another good one. But otherwise, if you live in the US, I would say wait until you play Colostle and make sure that you enjoy this game and want to really treat yourself. In terms of the supplements, Both optional. If you were going to get one of them, I would get dungeons. However, Kyodina does introduce a spirit mechanic, which is, I think, something that expands the possibilities of this game. Okay, and we'll talk about it because it's without this spirit thing. There's only 2 stats. That said, you can easily like from the PDF or even really descriptions or video playthroughs online, figure out spirit, how it works, how to track it, and stuff like that. So I would say what's incredible about this one is this Dungeon Ones is the closest to feeling like a classic. Still feels like Colossal, but it feels like it brings some other things to the table that are starting to feel like a little more organized, a little more polished. These are labyrinth tables where you could literally like summon up a dungeon. There's different rooks down there. There's different treasures. There's also like different things you can find down there that actually sort of advance your character, which is like character advancement. You know, this Rookstone ring amplifies magic and creative attacks +1 to red cards in combat, or it's worth 8 treasures, which is like the money system. So yeah, it's and the way that this goes, again, pretty cool. Is it? I'll just show you. The first one here is the Ashtari Temple. So you go room to room and you draw a card, and there's different results if you draw a red card or a black card, or for some of them, it's even more granular than that. Or it will give instructions like, oh, you get surprised, so your combat score is -3. So it's a pretty like set experience. And so I would say Dungeons is the way to go. It's the largest. And by the way, it didn't explicitly say that the new Colossal pre-order was the combination, but it was 170 pages. And so if we look at Roomlander, it's 95. And then this one is... Oh, that doesn't make sense. 40. So... I mean, these two together right now would be 135. So if it's 170, obviously it's going to be combined with it sounds like some extra cool stuff as well. So do check that out. And yeah, so to review, I would definitely, if you're interested, grab the Colossal Core book. Roomlands, if you'd like the full core, you can either get the discount by buying them together or get the pre-order of the combined one. Looks like both options are quite affordable. It all depends. You know, for me, one of the things that is a little bit difficult is like moving these books around while I'm playing, and so to have it in one would really be nice. Dungeons, I think if you're going to go a little extra, go with that. Kyodina, I think, is truly an icing on the cake. It does have another archetype or like character class, but again, in Colossal, character classes are just like what you start with. You can multi-class, pick up any classes, etc. Which actually I wish that's one of the mechanics I wish weren't so. But and then this is the Roomlander Journal. It's £10 online. Again, I found it at the store, so I picked it up. It just has these different sheets that allow you to track your exploration phase. And then in the back, it has several like character sheets that you can use for a playthrough. You can get the digital copy of this entire notebook for £1, or you can get the character sheets and everything for free on the website. So it all depends on how much disposable income you have. As far as cards, again, this is a regular card deck, and the rest of these, maybe take a look at what each of them do and what I do with them, and see if you're interested in them at all, and if so, I really don't think you need all of them. Really, I can't imagine, like, some of them. I guess I just tried to find a way to maximize the usage of all of the extant materials of Colossal, and so I put all of them to use, but I don't know. We'll see. All right. And then over here, just so if you see me taking some stuff from over here while we're going through it, this is like a kind of a GM screen that they have for free. You can download on the website. Just has common tables and oracles that you're going to use. I went overboard and printed out like tables from every one of the books. I regret this. This is way too much. I like printed out every page that had a table on it, and it was a big mistake because I got one of the emails from my ink cartridge purveyor that's like, what has happened? You know, like we had an agreement about how many pages you were going to print, and you went way over that. But yeah, printed out a few maps. Printed out just because, again, the just flipping this book back and forth, it was pretty tough, especially as I'm doing it here when usually I play on a big tabletop. And then also I have my Oracle card shoe here. This has all of my Dungeon Master's Apprentice. I used these a couple times as I was playing. It has the general one, which I think they just refreshed. It has fantasy, sci-fi, cyberpunk. Not necessary, or you can use whatever sort of Oracle cards you like, and you don't need them at all. I just think after you play for a while, the Oracle here gets just like a little bit tired, and so I wanted to breathe some new life into it, and then also kept these on hand. Didn't really need this because the game does a pretty good job of it. Table Fables was good. It just gives very simple things. For instance, when you're creating a character, you got to choose a weapon. And I'll talk about the weapon thing in my review of the game after we talk the instructions. This one here is OSR Solo Role-Playing Guide. Not much of a guide, but has, I think, by Arcane Sword Press, has really, really good Oracle tables in it. And so these are good. I was thinking this would be good for if I needed to spruce up the tunnel, and then, the dungeon. By Atelier Clandestine, this is Bad Things Happen. I don't use it that often, but it's like negative outcomes, or I think when you're playing a game that has maybe like an Ironsworn Starforge mechanic where you have a lot of yes but or yes with consequence, that could be one of the things that gets a little bit fatiguing to keep thinking of consequences. So that could be useful. Okay. All right. So the instructions of the base game are this. You are going to generate a character. You're going to look up that character's calling. You're going to choose an archetype or like class. And there are 4 of them in the core game. And again, these classes are just the information about what you're starting with as far as, your abilities and your stats. So for instance, when I was just doing a practice one today, if you're new to the channel, my characters are all named Jorma, and they all look like this, and they've also started to have their own personality. Jorma started listening to King Crimson and talking about prog rock a lot. I don't want to, anyways. I actually had like a flamethrower arm. It was pretty cool. But yeah, so he was the armed, and the armed have like a rook arm attached and interface with their nervous system, and had an exploration score of 3 and a combat score of 4. The spirit score, again, we can determine that it's pretty good because it's used for any sort of persuasive, charismatic interactions, anything that has to do with intuition, etc. And then you're going to get a nature, which is just kind of, flavor of what you are. This was terrible. When I drew this, I was so upset. I'm happy-go-lucky, optimistic, and fun. Very difficult for me to play. And then as far as inventory, you can choose a weapon, and the weapon, I used Table Fables for that, and I came up with longbow. And here's the thing, it doesn't do anything. There's no mechanics for your weapon. You could say that you have, I like this. I like some of the tables in here. first of all, because I love Madeline Hale's just like way of writing and sketching is very sort of like there's something about it that feels like the little sketches you make in a notebook, like in grade school or high school. Anyway, so I like them because they're very simple. Sometimes you don't need all the BS, and so I got a longbow. And I switched that out for a bow staff because I had a flamethrower arm, and I figured I needed something that was not lethal, because if I was just getting in like a scuffle with somebody, an argument, I didn't want to incinerate them. But yeah, the weapon is just flavor. And so this is where I will tell you how combat and exploration work, because they're very similar, and then put a pin in that the weapon has no mechanics to it, because that's going to be probably a jumping point for my review of the game. I'm going to turn the mic towards me because I think it's a little off-centered. Okay, I'm gonna just use basic playing cards here because again, I want just to consciously and subconsciously show you that you don't need these. It's only if it's like your personality. But basically, we talked about how dependent on your character class, you get like something major about the way that you interface with rooks, these moving castles present in Colostle. And so the armed, like I said, interface with them. There's the helmed, which like use a core part of the rook as a helmet. I'll show you the pictures of them. There's the helmed. The followed, you get a cute little chubby rookling, or I guess it could be an adolescent one, think Groot. And then the mounted. And there, in every book, there's some new ones, and there's also some additional kind of, it's not really an Easter egg, but one that I won't say, that if you get to a certain point, you can also get it. And you see that this is the stats, all right? Exploration is 5, combat is 2. That's the max for those. And again, in Kyodina, there's going to be an additional stat that is for spirit. And in this moment right now, as I'm recording, I forgot how you choose that. Let me just make sure I'm not giving you bad info. You know what? I shouldn't put the cart before the horse. From the top. We'll talk about spirit in a second. So, exploration score is 3. Combat score is 4. All right. The game has 2 phases: exploration phase and combat phase. Okay. And for each of these, the amount of cards that you deal out is equal to however many points you have in that stat. All right. And so if you are exploring, you're going to deal 3 cards. And we have Queen, 10, 8. And both the value of the card and the suit are relevant. Now, inside the book, you will look at the exploration table. And we can use this here in like sort of this little GM guide. And okay. All right. So we would compare to the exploration table, and the queen, we'll actually put that at the end just because it's a little bit different. The 10 of diamonds. You are taken prisoner and camp of non-humanoid people. An 8 of spades is calm the sea. All right. And the queen of diamonds is a medium rook. All right, so this is a tough draw, but it's going to be illustrative of how exploration goes. So I got a bunch of information there. Almost you'd say like too much, right? Because wow, I met a medium rook, and I also got taken prisoner by non-humanoids, and also there's a calm sea. So the first thing you need to know is that You can use these prompts however you'd like. You can modify them to sort of fit a little better, right? If you're like, read the sea, that doesn't mean you can't make it a lake or a pond, or you can even sort of think of it obliquely or cleverly, like vision sea, or you can think of something that the sea makes you think of: seafood, boats, romance. It doesn't matter. When you start, you're probably going to kind of take things like that at face value. But the first thing is like, stay calm, because the race is long and it's only with yourself here, okay? And so we also have this camp of non-humanoid people that have taken me prisoner. Um, how do I incorporate that? And all of this stuff at the same time. The next thing I want you to understand is that this represents like a whole day, or even like a whole segment. It could be longer than that. Some of them you might pull up and it could represent to you like 1 minute, but for this one, it sounds like a lot of stuff's happening. And we have this medium rook, and you're like, oh no, now I also have to get into combat, and it's my first thing. So here's the other thing. When you draw a card of a rook, that does not automatically mean that it is combat. You can always choose to hide, evade. Maybe the rook isn't the fighting type. Maybe it's a rook corpse. Maybe it's a statue of a rook that you mistook for a rook. Whatever it is, the metric here is imagination and enjoyment. Okay. And so kind of like let your brain drip a little into like the foramen, let it drip out of your skull toward your neck a little, and just relax. Okay. So you were taken prisoner by relax. You're taken prisoner by non-humanoids. Nothing to worry about. The sea. Okay. And then there's this rook. All right. So let's just take a moment here. The sea is calm. Imagine that you are near your village. Let's actually say that we are somewhere near the city of Parapet here, okay? And one of the only ways that I get to collect my thoughts is to go by the shore of the beach. I guess that's the shore of the beach. Is there a shore of anything? I guess there's the Jersey Shore. And so you're listening to the waves, and they're, no, that's wind. Sorry about that sound. All right. The sea is calm. Now it says, you are taken prisoner. I don't know if that has to be me. Now, in general, when you draw red, that's going to be like people or NPCs or sort of organic things, whereas over here it's more mechanized things. It could be things that are built, things that are environmental things that are like not animals or plants, not living, okay? And so it says you are taken prisoner. Well, this is the first draw, so maybe that happens. And if it does, we're in luck, actually, because that is the inciting incident that will generate for us a whole lot of action, because otherwise I would have just been standing on this beach, right? And we have this medium rook that, as we feel a little bit of cold air on the breeze and we pull our, coat or whatever around us a little bit tighter, and we say, it's about time to go home. And you turn, and you didn't hear it, you didn't see it, but literally, like the RoboCop, the other RoboCop, what was that thing called that was in the first RoboCop. Uh, that something twice as big as that is standing there. So imagine your heart leaps and you draw your breath in and you're about to scream, and all of a sudden it just goes black. You feel like a hit on the back of your neck and you're out. And now you're like, okay, so that's the rook. We didn't have to fight a rook or anything like that. We'll get to combat. But sometimes you might say like, wait a minute, do I know the people who kidnapped me? And then you're like, do I just have to make that up? Well, this sheet here has some general oracles. This up here is like a yes/no oracle. So you could be like, do I know these people? And we'll draw a card. 4 of diamonds. So it's a red card, ace through 4, no. And it was worse than expected. Not only, oops, sorry, it's up top here. Not only do you not know these people, you have no idea where you are. You've never seen these people in your life. You don't even recognize like the symbols and decorations everywhere. And so then you're like, well, what is going on here? Because I'm not exploring, right? Maybe I'm tied up inside a hut. And so you can use these. This is a storytelling oracle that has an inciting sort of initiative action word, verb, subject, and twist. And so we can just pull a couple cards out here. Oh, that's the one I just had. All right. So we got, we'll just do it like this. 8, and I have no idea what these are. I'm just dropping them. 7, get something. Jack. All right, so this is not the exploration phase. This is just to help me like figure out what's going on here. And you could use this at any time. So 7 of spades, find or locate. 8 of shady dealings. When we're just using this oracle, it doesn't, like the suit doesn't matter. Find or locate, shady dealings. Jack, a rook appears, but something strange. Okay, so you're tied up and you're not, your head hurts a little bit. But all of a sudden you say, where am I? And a person who's sitting there like eating some oatmeal, like scraping the last of it off the bottom of the bowl, says, you're gonna have to wait for the boss to tell you that. It's like, you can't tell me where I am. Oh, I could. It's just, well, the boss gives the orders around here. And I say, well, where is the boss? And tell them to get their ass here right now. And they're like, yeah, actually, I think the boss should be ready to talk to you. And suddenly, the 2 pillars to the left and right of me that I thought were pillars, think of like an AT-AT from Star Wars. They just step forward, and the rook that I saw before getting knocked out was above me, and it turns around because, right, it says a rook appears, but something strange. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this rook, it's going to kill me. But then, suddenly you see that somebody is inside of it, a much bigger rook than this. And so somebody jumps down, and you say, well, who is this person? Well, we could use this sort of, think of it as a freebie oracle. We draw a 10, and it's Quen. How do they look? Cute and small. 7. And they are arrogant and overconfident. So Quinn comes down and goes, you know what? It's just getting way easier to capture you people. Like, it's not even difficult anymore. I almost wish it was more difficult, because then I could really show people what I could do with Otis. That just came to my mind. He's calling his rook Otis or whatever. All right. And so, and we go on from there. You will then do another exploration phase, and you'll say, well, I'm stuck there. It's like, you are right now, but the exploration phase can include a long period of time. So say you bring up something that says, Canyon. Well, you have to think about, how did you get from being tied up there to a canyon? Did you try to escape? Did Quen put you on the back of the rook and was like, let me show you a little something about the big picture here? You know, maybe Quen's not so bad. Maybe they had to kidnap you because there's no other way that you'd come with, whatever. You think about your character, you think about who you are, you think about the situations. But let's say that that wasn't a Quen-driven rook. Let's say that that was a rook that wished to do you harm. You would do combat. And so again, my character has 4, and so I will deal out 4 cards, and the higher combat score, the higher amount of cards you have. Now, whereas exploration cards, I guess it's advantageous. It could actually be disadvantageous. If you have a really high exploration score, you might have like a lot of inputs to use. Whereas combat, this is 4 face-up cards. And a medium rook is has 3 attacks, okay? And this, if you know War or Go Fish, you're going to be able to basically understand this. So essentially, you are going to go through a series of this rook's attacks. When they flip their card, you have these cards at your disposal to determine what you're going to beat this with, okay? So, you know, I think here the right move would be a 7, because it's generally better to get rid of your lower cards early, right? You wouldn't want to obliterate that with a jack, because the next 2 cards might be king, king, right? If you tie, say there was a 7 here and I use a 7, that's a clash. I do not inflict damage and I do not absorb damage. If the rook, if you land hits on the rook more times than you are hit, you win. You can also, maybe depending on the, you know, the sequence of events in combat, you might think it makes sense story-wise to run away or maybe negotiate, whatever it is. So we won that one. And there's more to this, like in terms of narrative, but I just want to show you the mechanics of it. Okay. So now the next one is a king. And I can't beat a king. King's the highest card. I didn't plan that, but I'm glad. This is good. And so now, again, whether you do this or this, you've lost, right? Now, personally, I would like to expand this system a little bit for my play to say like the degree of difference might have some effects, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm not even going to talk about that piece in this video, because that piece is, I think, would be a little bit confusing and it's still half-baked. But I'd probably now want to get rid of my lower cards. So now I've taken a wound. And so how do I inflict this on myself? Because all I have is a combat score of 3 and an exploration score of 3 and a combat score of 4. Well, when you get attacked, you have to take a point off of one of those. And you cannot recover it unless you have some sort of item that recovers it, or you are able to sleep through a night. And say that I said, well, I have 4 combat. I could take it from there, but then, you know, next time I fight somebody, I can only draw 3 cards. And you'll say, maybe I'll take it from exploration. Who cares if I only get to draw 2 cards on exploration? But here's the thing. If either combat or your exploration score hit 0, you're dead, or whatever. You don't have to be dead. You could say retired or whatever it might be. And so it all comes down to this right here. Let's just hope it's not a queen or a king. And it's a queen, right? And so that means that I took another wound. Now, at least this rook is out of attacks. They have won. And what this means is, you know, narratively, you'll have to figure that out. You still have some points, so you were not vanquished, but the combat is over and you lost, okay? Now, I suppose you could deal it out again if you were insistent, but it sounds like you are outmatched here. And additionally, you are 2 points down in either exploration or combat or both. And so you need to get out of here. And if you didn't, say you did win, the benefit of that is you get to get a prize. You get a reward, okay? And so that's kind of where, you know, in the most basic form of the game, some choice will come in, is that if you don't, you can skip out on every combat encounter in the game. But if you do that, you don't get anything. You don't get any rewards. You don't get treasures. You don't get new items. You don't get anything. And now, yes, as in the base game, you could say, well, who cares? They're just descriptive. And this is the point I would say that, like, you have your answer about this game. Because that is, if you are unsatisfied with that, um, even with like punching it up and adding things and changing some mechanics, this game is essentially intended. So if you want to play this game, even with modifications, and you want to play it in the spirit of what it was intended for, this is a narrative descriptive game. It is not quite a full journaling game, which makes it more tolerable for many people, certainly for me, but it is also, the mechanics are to move the story along. And even though they do get a little bit more sophisticated as time goes on, fundamentally, if you're looking for way more than that, there are lots of other games that are fun for you, and that's okay. And this, because not every game is for everybody, okay? If you are interested in that, well, good news, because combat is going to have, in addition to like those different results mechanically, which one is higher, every time you meet a rook or another, say you could also fight other people, you'll draw their intention. Do they want to kill you, steal from you, flee from you? You'll see if they have a ranged or melee weapon. Rooks will have potentially one of three types of magic: electric, rumble, or ice. They also have ranged and melee weapons. They have a body that's attack or defense oriented. And then there's a reward. You can get a helm, an arm, a rookling, a weapon, which essentially you become. Say I defeated that medium rook and I got a rookling. I'm basically now, have a companion just as I would if I would have selected the rookling class. And then for each suit during the combat, there's a different attack type. So if you want to think through this narratively, any spades you pull are an unarmed attack, sort of, my mitts. Clubs is weapon, hearts is magic, and then diamonds is creative. And creative, you want to think of like some cinematic, really cool sort of thing. It'll give you how much combat score each of them have. Like another person has 1, a medium rook 3, a massive rook 5, and there's some other ones that are introduced. It has stuff about clashes, critical hits. If your counterattack beats the incoming attack and is the same suit, then it's a critical hit, and it disables your enemy. It decreases their remaining attacks by 1, and enemies, at least rules as written, cannot crit against you. Okay. So that is the essential thing. And I just want to correct one thing that I was a little bit confusing before I go on my sort of impressions. I don't even know if this registered if you're new to the game, but earlier I said that like spirit was used for like charisma checks and stuff. That's not correct. I was actually confusing it with something that I'm going to introduce a little later on. But spirit is basically introduced in Kyodina as another stat. It's different in that you can spend it to do skills like special attacks or special moves or special abilities. And you spend a point to do it. You regain them at temples, and every time you go to a temple, you can learn one skill from there, and then that's it. So you got to choose wisely. The difference with spirit is that every time you visit a new temple, you get +1 to your max spirit, and you get a spirit point. And also, when it goes down to 0, you're not dead. It doesn't function like the other two. So you can, because otherwise, everybody is going to start with 1 spirit point. And unless they're a character that is new in Kyodina. But otherwise, like if you take your character here, if I took Jorma here, who didn't start with spirit, the first temple I go to, I would get 1 spirit point and 1 skill. Well, that would be fundamentally useless, because if I died at 0, then I would never be able to use that 1 point. So here's an example at the Temple of the Stone Fist. you could get the skill of Rook's Speed. Gain the speed and agility of a Kyodainen Rook for one battle. Before battles begin, you can activate this skill by spending spirit. You extend your spirit into your muscles and unlock the strength of a Rook, but channeled into your much smaller body, increasing your speed massively. In battle, each time you reveal a Rook attack, you can choose to draw a card at random instead of using one of your drawn attack cards. To do this, you must discard one of your drawn attacks. So it just gives you some extra mechanical options like that. Okay. There is also a way of doing combat in a Rook knot. And I think this, when I show you this, it might appear quite like, whoa, that just got really hard really quick, but it's not. So basically, you could have these like mech battles, but it's when you have a team of people, and you'd have 5, because you could play in a way where you're controlling more than one, or maybe you just control your character, but you're traveling with other adventurers that are NPCs, and you'll be like, all right, so this is their lower body, and then whoever the 2 armed are here, and then these are really good cards. And then you draw this as the body and this as the head, right? Or it might even, whatever it is. There's 5. And so then not only are these your cards you're going to use to attack, but you're going to like attack with this arm, or if something is bested, say this is an 8 and I have to play it against a 9, that means that we attacked by like swinging in the right arm and it got damaged. And so that's all it does, is it kind of puts it there, and you have some other options of attacks you can do and stuff. Don't worry about that. I'm trying to avoid head clutter for you if you are new to it. Jokers are intentionally left ambiguous. There are no mechanics for them. And I will say, even though I alluded to the weapons being the first thing to kick off my impressions of it, I will say I think that's a good example of the very few sort of what I would consider maybe areas of improvement rather than just coming down to taste. They're very few. That's the bottom line, is that this is a wonderful game that is perfect for a lot of people to bring them into it. But after the review, we'll talk about if you are new to solo play, is this the one for you? So my review is that in terms of like, as a matter of taste, I wrote down the headings here. There are, I'd say, 10 ways that I wish that this game that there's so many great things about the game. That's when you want, like, if a game just like sucks across the board, you don't invest this much time to consider how it could and should be or whatever. Okay. So this all represents, there's something very attractive about this game to me. The first thing is progression systems. There's just not a clear advancement mechanic. I guess the introduction of spirit is sort of advancement. Getting the additional class abilities is advancement, but I don't want other classes' abilities. I want to make a choice, and I want that choice to mean something. And that is why I said the sort of non-assigned jokers is a good exemplar of this. Like, especially for early in solo play, it feels like giving people lots of options and leaving things open-ended is the best way to go, but it actually causes a sort of decision paralysis. And so, I would recommend, if it's your first time, take the jokers out, because what'll happen when you get to those is you're already trying to like balance a bunch of plates, and then suddenly it's like, oh, this card could be anything. The whole point of this is that you get a little bit of structure, okay? And the other thing that is tied into the progression system is combat. Everything is binary, pass, fail. There's cinematically, there's, could be some tactics and amazing moments. But, even say, take a game like Scarlet Heroes with like exploding dice. there's ways to mechanically create that, because if all it is in my head is me going like, oh man, I bet that I do a backflip just like uh, Mila Jovovich in the first Resident Evil movie when she flipped off the motorcycle for the 15th time because her husband directed it. And this is limiting. There's no enemy traits. I mean, don't really have a lot of bearing. There's no pressure from resource management, positioning, action economy. And overall, there's just not a lot of stakes. There's not consequences. Like the fact that I pick one class, now I pick another class. And I have two classes. It's like, well, so really I didn't pick a class, I picked like an object, and it just feels less special. Um, Inventory and equipment is very flavor based. There's no system for item combinations, weight, conditions, upgrades. Uh, World discovery is flat. I'd say even with like the cartographer cards, which I do think adds something nice to it, just having like the ability to flip this, and we'll talk about how we'll use these. I think in a way that's a little bit more concrete. Exploration loops to me get a bit repetitive unless you really try, and I think that's the thing that with journaling games that I constantly find myself saying is like, this game is requiring me to work harder than this game is working. Like this page has, I'm not talking about Colostle, I'm talking about like this straw man of a journaling game in my head. It's like, this page has 12 letters on it and it's telling me to write 500. Bad trade, right? And so Colossal gives me a lot. It gives me a lot to fill up my mind and my senses. But after a while, it's really on me, because after a while the deck is going to recycle. All the systems they live in isolation. I'd say that's, I think, number 6. Perhaps we could say there's some crossover in like, when you are wounded in combat, you could lose some of your exploration score. But other than that, it's really, there's no multivariable events that test more than one stat or resource. And this is all stuff that, like, as I stated in the last video, I compared, when I mentioned this, I compared it to Against the Wind, which has a similarly simple system. And it does a lot with that simple system. I think it is a little bit more crunchy, but I would say, unless you're somebody that's like, I will only use stats if it is absolutely required, I think it could get a little more complex. So that's 7. Use of cards. There's no hand management. I think there's some missed opportunities there. Like, how about a pair? How about 3 of a kind? Does that mean anything? Can I hang on to cards? Can I use them later? Do any of the cards stay with me? Am I able to do a redraw? Well, we saw maybe with the spirit skills that can come into it. And then I guess I already said this, but role-specific mechanics. The classes are underdeveloped mechanically. There's not really any mechanically unique actions. There's no growth paths. Even if you gave each of the classes 3 stages, that would feel cool. But it's just nothing. And systems for customization. There's no player-led build choices. There's minimal opportunity for players to like express their will in the game via the rules. I would love to see a skill tree, a mutation path, anything, gear loadout. And then pressure systems. This is, I think, a place would be great to add some sort of abstract clock system or something that escalates, urgency mechanics. Exploration is risk-free, unless the player inserts tension. And sure, like, I can't get rewards, but I'm not really... I'm not... And I'm saying this there is a way to look at this game where if you're a min-maxer, you're going, I will just escape from the rooks every time and then I'll go get it. Like, of course, this is not that kind of game. But what I'm saying is, like, could we have just push it a little bit? Could we track season scarcity? Could my objects in my inventory decay? Could I have inventory limits? That would be something as well that would, I think, do a whole lot. So I considered those things, and I'm going to sort of the last thing I'm going to do is give my thoughts on it as an introductory solo game, and then we'll talk about some of the changes I considered and what I eventually went with. So there is two sides to the consideration of whether this is your first solo game. The pro side, I think, is sort of self-evident. It's extremely simple, and it allows a feeling of immediate competence. It's a wonderful book and a wonderful world, and you're going to be able to play a role-playing game. And especially if you're somebody who didn't imagine that or never thought you could, you can do it. This is from the Roomlands right here. There's a Tundra room called, I really like this word, Tundroom. And every card you draw, you're going to have prompts. A blizzard sets in. Your visibility is reduced. If your goal is to really create something in your imagination, this is actually wonderful prompts. I would say they are exceedingly good prompts compared to some of the stuff we get sometimes, which is like, you see something. What is it? You get both sides of tabletop role playing. You get, villages and NPCs, and I have sort of become more okay with the fact that I don't really like combat. I like conflict and tension when appropriate, but I don't. I find sometimes mechanics where I'm going, why am I doing, like, who am I serving with this if I'm not enjoying it? But very often combat is something woven into the bigger picture of the game, so it is relevant. You don't want to just leave it behind, and you don't want to make it completely arbitrary where it's like, I'll flip a coin, if I get tails I die. And it's like, well, I'm not going to build up, I'm not going to invest a lot if that's the case. So this is a whole world though that is ready for you to explore, and you don't need to do combat at all. In this game, you could abstract combat like that because you can just push things forward. You're not, if you flipped a coin in this game, you wouldn't be like, oh, I missed out on so much. Like, technically, you could have if you wanted to create like a very cinematic conflict, but if you quickly did the sort of war go fish game that I did, you didn't miss much. And so this is going to move you through a lot of the cycles and the feelings of tabletop role playing from the point of the fiction and the imagination, the choice making, and really it teaches one of the most important lessons, which is that it's all like that. It's all arbitrary. We can put all the stakes that we want, but all of these are just arbitrary sets of rules. And so if we can't, if you're not in heaven now, you never will be. So like if you're only satisfied with certain thresholds of complicatedness, that is a bit of like a hot sauce addiction, and I can respect that, but some people just don't go for that. That's not how they're going to get their jollies, by singeing their tongue in order to get a dopamine or serotonin or oxy. I don't know what neurotransmitter hot sauce does, but the reason why it might not be a good entry point, there are a lot of mechanics that you're going to find in a lot of other tabletop role-playing games that are just not present in this. So if you were looking at it as a gateway to say, I'm going to learn Colossal, I'll pick up some, I'll learn how to do skill checks and I'll learn how to do saving throws, and I will make sure I use my inspiration at the right time, and I gotta choose whether I want to, multi-class. I'll see if the GM could let me do that. Do they let me do perception checks? I just should dump all my points in agility. None of those things I asked are going to matter. And you're not going to learn how to do them from this game. Um, and yes, I know some of you might be compelled to say, like, well, you could learn all those things in 2 seconds. I know. That's fine if that's how you learn. For me, I need to like really do something and develop a muscle memory for it, or else I just don't install the software. And so on that end of things, you it all depends on what your goals are. So if you're looking as like dipping your toe into this with the expectation that you'll be able to sort of naturally progress to the next step, I think there are probably some options that would be better for that, of a more guided introductory experience. One Shot Dungeon, Four Against Darkness, um, Against the Wind. These are games that actually I can't. Against the Wind, defer. I think that is correct, but I don't. I'm yet to really explore that game. Um, Scarlet Heroes, if you've played group play before, that's another really good one. But talking about solo specifically, though, the mechanics, the stats, all that stuff comes and goes, and so I'll leave it on sort of the final reason why yes is because the it's kind of like when you go and you ask your older brother, I really like this girl, how do I talk to her? And your brother's like, dude, you just need to like chill and just talk to her. And you're like, what? No, like, what do I say? He's like, if you start thinking about what you need to say, you're screwed. And you're like, why are you telling me this advice in like Zen koan format, right? And what your older brother's trying to express is that like little strategies, the mechanics of that action. There's a million different things that might, or often not, if it's some sort of canned BS, but like you can make a joke, you can talk about your hobby, you could, whatever kind of approach, but ultimately, what is actually happening, you're trying to build electricity between you and this person. And in order to do that, you have to convey more than just, it's not a password. I think that's like what every um, 12-year-old boy who's like entering adolescence is like, what's the password? How do I know the password? And it's like, that's not it, man. That's not what's going on here. What really is, you need to be somebody who a person feels good when they're around them, and they feel like they're having a good time, and they feel like this person is safe and nice and good, and as time goes on, more deep needs like loyalty and consistency, groundedness, all these things. What I'm trying to get at, and maybe I'm going a little bit too far around the turnpike, but the most essential skill in solo role playing is creating the next scene, navigating it, and because that is what is going to give you that thing where you're like, that was so awesome. I especially, like, I didn't feel, I just did, a 540 spin here, and I thought I was going to fall on my ass. And then it all came together, and it happens all the time. All the time it happens. It when you allow that sort of flow state to emerge, it happens all the time. And you'll constantly be like, how did I get so lucky that I planted this idea 2 sessions ago and suddenly I remembered it just at the right time, and the guy asked me about my shoes, and now my shoe. Yep, your subconscious set it up for you. It knew what was going on. And so it's the best writer. And so that kind of skill, that if you want to be a solo role player, you could do a hell of a lot worse than the excellent prompt writing in this. And hey, you know what? There's nothing to say that this is like you have to swear fealty to this. This could be just one of the games that you try. For the price point, for the artistry, for the community. And just because I think there are certain games, solo games, that even if I no longer would recommend them, I would still say, what do they say? Like in Maine, you can't get there from here, right? Or you got to like go through some games to get to the right game. It's really weird. Like you got to go. I had to play 10 journaling games until I started understanding that I didn't like journaling games. And that process, that banging of my head against the wall, was necessary because you not only need to know what you like and what you don't like, you start getting power when you know why you don't like something. That's where you start really getting self-knowledge, because the first level is just like a priori sort of first order consideration when you're like, I don't like this. That's a childlike orientation. Like, I like bubblegum. I don't like hamburgers. I don't like waiting. I don't like bubbles when they don't when they don't stay together for very long. I do like hugs, but I don't like when the person has wool on. Whatever it is, that's all fine and good. It's good to know our preferences. Those help us to develop our boundaries. But as we begin to know what in us likes or dislikes something, suddenly we're doing work. Like we're actually doing work. And that's sort of the incredible, if not, I don't want to go so far as to say healing. I hope you get some healing out of this. But at the very least, it's going to help you better articulate your life. The better I have become at articulating my characters, the better I am at articulating this character. Pointing at myself. So go for it. Okay. So here's a couple of things. This is part 2 of the video. I'm going to stand up. Butt hurts. Okay. So as I stated, I wanted to see if I could add or subtract or modify some things so that the game could reflect my preferences. I want to the point of annoyance, I just want to restate, obviously there's something really awesome here to want to invest that, and it's just about preference. Okay. And the boundaries though were that boundaries that were in place so that I did not create another different game. So number 1, I did not want to add any mechanics that would use dice. No dice mechanics. Number 2, I was not going to change the setting, the overall tone, although I did think about a grimdark Colossal, which was kind of funny for a minute. The tone, the setting, I wanted to use the people there, use the general idea of this big castle. Didn't want to go outside of it or anything like that. And wanted to keep it rules light and simple. Okay, so endless like adding. I wasn't just going to steampunk it with a bunch of new mechanics and ideas. Also, I was unless I created something as an alternative resource, I'm going to use the tools that are present. I did like create maybe some extra, just it could be instructions if I wrote them out. There is an open game license that Nick Angel has for this. And you can even use like the rules in service of that, but obviously you can't present the art as your own or like make t-shirts of it. But as long as it's complementary and supplementary to the extant materials. So, it had to be based on the core book of the Roomlands and the core book, right? And so I definitely didn't want to add outside tools other than maybe like using this as I would in any game, like some Oracle stuff or something like that. But I definitely didn't want to like put year zero system on it or be like, well, I'm going to use the Colossal setting, but I'm going to do D&D. None of that. Okay. And so I basically thought of a couple of different areas. Um, uh, adapting the game to make more of like a resource. Um, maybe scavenging might be a word for it. Um, creating more expendables, not Stallone. Um, sorry. More Against the Wind had like this resource burning, which Colossal kind of has that with the spirit mechanic, using that to cast skills or whatever. But I don't really think of that as like burning a something, because that would be like if you were playing an RPG on, Nintendo, and you cast Hurt More, the first spell I think I ever saw in Dragon Warrior for the Nintendo. Hurt More, and it cost 8 MP. I wouldn't say I've burned 8 MP to use it. That implies some sort of sacrifice or a sort of investment. And so some sort of like salvaging a failure by spending points, enhancing a success by spending points, adding meta narrative mechanics. I eventually decided against this, but I think the deepest this goes in meta narrative is like a twist. There is a twist, but I didn't want to start saying like, oh, well, this table shows us that like antagonists moving closer, because mostly these prompts are special because of how much they stay in the scene and in the book. Traits that I thought could have been good, and I didn't want to do like a trait ranking system, because again, there's not a lot where you can add values to except one place. Most everything is yes or no. You got a wound or you didn't. You inflicted damage or you didn't. Your character has some life left or none. But the one thing where there was like some movability, the first thing I should say that I thought about was like the value of the card, and just saying because some of the skills, for instance, will say any diamond card for your next combat is +2, and it's like that's right. I can kind of increase that to increase the attack power. Um, and I think there needs to be some more advancement. That's something I was like, how can I make it? Because you have these limitations in Colossal that there, even if I add another stat, the max is 5. Now there was a released, and I should show this, a system for like advanced play, and it's 2 pages, and I remember looking at it and being like, okay, yeah, this doesn't really do what I'm thinking here, but maybe let's just take a look at it really quickly again. Yes. Okay. So I'll show you this. It's basically 2 pages of text, and then this just looking at this just further reinforced like how precious and important it is to like not disrupt what this game is. Sorry, what the hell is wrong? No, I'm not tooting my own horn here at all. I want to be clear about that. I'm actually commenting on how much I over communicate and overwrite, if you've seen any of my games or supplements. But just imagine if like people were clamoring, Man Alone, come on, we want something extra to do in Flint. Can't you create a system for us if we max out our level? I want you to think of like, I would, if I wanted to do that, I might just be like, no, I'm tired. But if I did that, I can't, because this is what a lot of people are saying. It's like, hey, can we get a little bit more? And Nick Angel writes this. Okay, well, if you max out your levels, then you can add feral massive rooks, And instead of having combat of score of 5, they have 6, 7, or even 8. And then here is 4 new rewards. That's it. I am truly not like poking fun here. You must see this right here. This is what this game is. This is a precious game. I mean that in like the most sincere thing. This game is about or it's got a fragility to it. It's about the setting. It's about the stories, right? And so the fact that this was a sufficient addendum is very telling, right? Because that's you if you asked me for that, I would give you 30 pages of tables. So, but that's not this game. All right? And so all the more reason to sort of like protect what this game is. And again, it's not done because of skill. Nick Angel does not lack game development skill. It's his vision. That's what he wants. That's what he has created here, and I want to respect that vision. Okay. So yeah, I talked about like crafting, adding some things for long-term projects, maybe a stronghold, maybe putting tarot in, and then I said, nah, I think we, although that would be cards, all right. So essentially, I tried a bunch of different things, and it's really tough. Let me tell you why it's tough. It's almost more difficult because of how small the bundle of like variables that you could switch. It's like there's just a few levers you can pull, and you need to create a meaningful change by just trying to like reorient those. But it became, because you could see all the levers, I won't say it was more difficult, but it felt more tense because I was like, okay, what if we added this stat? What if we made exploration be able to go up to 7? Pull that lever. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, now that will take way more for a person to die because they're just going to their exploration. I was like, and also you'd run out of cards. And then also, if a person had an exploration score that high, they would have to draw out 7 cards and figure out what happened in their day with 7 cards, right? I was like, that's why there's a 5-card limit, right? And then I was like, okay, why don't I add some weapons? And these weapons, I'm going to add some mechanics to them. Okay, all right, let's do a retractable chain scythe and a stone piston claw. This is literally, I wrote that. And so, actually, I may not have written that. I'm looking at this. I wonder if I pulled that from the book. Okay, I did write that, but I also just spent about 10 minutes checking out chain scythes, like, because there's some conceptual designs. Pretty cool. Okay, so, right. All right, so essentially, I think that the first moment that clicked for me was these job packs. And they're so interesting in terms of like the mechanics of them because all right, let's take like the cartographer. So this is the one I ended up buying because I thought it would be the most useful. And essentially, say your exploration score is 4, well, you would pull 8 cards. All right. And then you would flip all these and you'd have to like make them into a meaningful organization where at least one side touches, and then like walls have to be on the outside, and if there's any roads they should connect if possible. And I kind of enjoy this just as like a game. So this could potentially share walls if it was on both sides. We might even say that the cities in there. Let's see now. And maybe this city, there's an adventurer camp outside of the city, maybe. And okay, so we have, now we put them face down. Well, I don't know if that's actually right because you need to align them correctly. But the, like this right here says trap. And so I'd have to figure out like how to navigate that. But in the same way, I would have to figure out like what is happening here, like what is the story here, and then I could log it on the sheet. And what's interesting about this is I was like, okay, that's like mildly cool, but it says playing as a cartographer involves using the cartographer cards in combination with the exploration encounter tables. Shuffle the deck. When you come to an exploration phase, you'll be drawing cards from this deck instead of the primary playing card deck. However, the cartographer draws 2 cards for each exploration point. Lay out those cards in a grid. You may not create a layout that is wider than 4x4. If you have drawn a wall card, then that wall extends either vertically or horizontally in the direction shown on the card. You must continue this wall in its direction on your map. Okay, so yeah, I don't think these are 2 walls. All right. Oceans are placed on the outer edge. Once your grid is laid out, you can now translate the grid of cards into a map in your cartographer's journal, right? So there's these little journals that they give you for each, well, for weirdly 3 of the 4 jobs. The one that I would expect there to be one the most for is not there. There's one for researcher, inventor, and cartographer, but not apothecary, which is so strange. I guess the cards in and of themselves do that, but yeah, so this is the rook name, a field sketch. This is a different inventory. And then this is the cartographer. Okay. So I was like, okay, that's mildly interesting. And then I was like, how is that like a occupation? Like that kind of feels like a mechanic. You know, it does say that if you are able to create a map of 5 pages or more that maps the land surrounding a town or city, that town or city will buy it for you for 3 treasures, which is like 3 gold. That's 5 pages. Okay, 5 pages is 16 times 5. That's 80. 80 cards. They'll give you $3. All right. And so, I mean, and again, whatever. It's just like an extra thing. And I was like, okay. I said, so that's, I kind of was like, I wish I hadn't bought this one because this one is like more of a tool or a mechanic, right? And then it's like, let's look at the researcher. All right. So the researcher is these cards here that just tell you different features of rooks. And do you know the way that you find out these features? You fight a rook. And while you're fighting the rook, you really take a good look. And then at the end, you make a sketch. And you can submit this sheet to those interested. And do you get any treasures? No. But it says at the bottom, sorry. You do get treasures. You can sell the information at hunters' guilds for 2 treasures per bestiary entry. Or you can share the rooks you have discovered with other players so they can encounter other rooks of that style. Very cool. And they're very respected. Okay. So that one's a little bit closer, but at the same time, it's almost a disadvantage, or maybe not a disadvantage, but it's strange, right? Like, that is not usually how this goes, right? Like, I'm a rogue. I'm fast. I start with, some skill that lets me do like a shadow walk or something. And this one's like, you get to draw, you get to sketch. Okay, let's keep going here. So then we have the apothecary. Again, I think this is the one that is probably, you can forage. You pull one of these cards instead of your normal exploration card. It takes the place of it. And this one I like. It's like you could find different things in different areas. However, no risk really, right? You're gonna find something if you forage. I guess you're giving up one of your exploration cards, but again, so what? If you have a score of 5 for exploration and you only get 4 cards, so you get a little less description. I don't really know, but the mechanic works pretty well, and they have like pretty good advantages. Quake Root, a potion made with Quake Root as a primary ingredient, enhances rumble abilities. If using a rumble stone, this potion adds +4 to magic attack cards. Great, pretty specific, but at least it's something. And I would say that there is. I was gonna say earlier that crinkling this up here 1 second. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say earlier, like, what is the ultimate aim that we're going for? You know, and that is something that I think was existing in my mind for a lot of this game of like, wait a minute, what am I doing? You know, I'm in this big castle, and there's rooks, and some of them are mean, and some of them are not mean. Okay, like what am I here for? Am I really like just waiting for that core story to emerge based on my calling? Is there some greater mechanic going on here? Why am I doing any of this? And it was that realization that I think made something click. And I'll just show you the last card here is the Inventor, which after you defeat rooks, you get like parts, and you just list the parts, and then you could sort of build something, whatever you think would work based on the parts. Total abstraction, which I like. I am fine using that level of abstraction. In fact, when it comes to talents, one of the things that I enjoy is the talent system from like Against the Wind. It was also in some other game that I was playing where maybe it was the game by the people who made Cartograph, that detective game. You get like skills, but all they do is they're super specific. They don't have a necessarily like a set degree of points or anything that they add. But say your skill is like beekeeping, well, on any situation where beekeeping is used, or anything that's used, like any skills or talents associated with beekeeping, I suppose, you would roll with advantage. There's not even advantage. I don't even have advantage in this game. Rules as written. And so now we're getting closer to like, breakthrough here. We're beginning to break through. I don't have enough mechanics. The my capability set is too narrow. The statistics, the math is too limited. The math has to be limited. The setting is verdant and fecund and rich. I don't really know what I'm doing. Why am I here? I don't need to be here, but also I don't mind being here. It's really fun. And then here's all these things, and which one do I want to be? Because the cartographer, I don't know. I get the map with that, and the apothecary, I get. And then I was like, well, they're mechanics, so let's do all of them. Okay, so that's step one. That is what we're first things first. For Colossal Pro Ed. All of these are on the table, and they're not even really occupations. They're like mechanics. All right. They're things that you could do because all of them, or most of them, I think all of them, you can at least sell the thing for treasure. All right. So I have these. And I need something now. I need something to wager. I need to burn something. I need to wager something, right? And so spirit doesn't quite cut it. But remember I said earlier, like spirit, I was wrong. I said spirit could be used for like, charisma or persuasion. Well, that right there, the reason it can't be is not only because it's not designed that way, it's also because that's a skill check. And so I was like, there's no skill checks in this game. And then I was like, well, a skill check is kind of like a wager. And so could we keep like will the wheels fall off if we add a skill check? Not if it's a wager. That's my conclusion. Not if it's a wager. If it's a just like you're testing things all the time, yes, that's going to fundamentally switch things up. So we have spirit, we have exploration, we have combat. I'm going to add focus. Okay. Now, spirit is different in that if it goes to 0, it doesn't kill you. You get 1 every time you go to a temple. That's also how you recover it. Focus, you got 3. You start with 3. And yes, losing all focus does not kill you. All right. And here's what you do. Or shall we say, here's the difference. Spirit you use to activate your skills, and focus is not related to a specific skill, but it is a sort of tactical improvisation. It is interruptive. It can be used pre-action, post-failure. It's sort of like inspiration, but not quite. It's not luck. It's not a bonus. It is a limited pool of points that we can wager to attempt high-risk actions, both during exploration or combat. It represents tactical sharpness, improvisation, will, sheer force of will. And so all characters get 3. It's not tied to spirit, although both are expendable. Again, spirits to use learned skills comes from Kyodaina. Focus is making these tactical things that redirect fate, let's say. During the exploration phase, you can spend 1 focus to do an additional or heightened action. Okay? So we're going to use the cartographer deck now during exploration. If we are in Overland, the cartographer deck is getting pulled every single time. Adventurer camp. All right. That doesn't cost a thing, because what an easy way to generate the setting for the next exploration. We'll just use it as like an oracle deck. All right. Or a map deck, to be precise. And now I have this exploration score of 3. And I have... Wow, that is wild. I just drew 3 9s. I even pulled from like different parts of the damn deck. Okay. And so we will use whatever these are, but we know we're going to do it in an adventurer camp or something that's like an adventurer camp, right? Like, it doesn't have to be that. It's an input, all right? And so that as usual, but then I say, okay, before that I might say, you know what? I actually, for one of my explorations, I want to forage, or I want to observe. I want to look around, right? And so I mix up this deck, and I'm not going to do it right now just because of the way that the cards are, and I could cut them better. But we don't know whether we're pulling from... And I think a shoe would be perfect for this because you could just shuffle them and then the next one you can see the one ahead. But all right, so if we pull an apothecary, we just found a cytadalon. Okay. And great. And so we put that in our endless inventory, except our inventory is not endless anymore because that is also a place that we can create stakes and choice. We have 8 slots. Sorry, for us, we have 6 slots because, no, 8, because my combat score is 4. Inventory is your combat times 2. Okay. I leave that for possibility of leveling up. Perhaps that could be a place that you also level up. You can now add to focus. You can now add to spirit. And so I put that there, and I know that I need this ingredient or this ingredient, and we hope that we find something before it has to go. All right. Additionally, if it is something fresh like this, we can move it down the inventory because we have the cards. We can put it in something like this. And if it's consumable and we get a new item, we have to dump the oldest consumable item because of rot. Another clock, another stakes. We're adding stakes. All right. So that one's obvious. Perhaps we find a gear system, right? Because usually the inventor is only able to get this after defeating a rook. That's not fair. How come this guy gets their thing for free and this guy has to defeat a rook? How come this guy has to fight a rook in battle to draw a picture of it? No. So we can find a gear system, or maybe we say, because, you really should find that with rooks, for like it. I do understand that when you put a lot of these things together, they could be quite powerful, and so you there should be some sort of obstacle to getting it. But to have to fight a rook is like a serious battle. A medium rook's an elite battle. A full rook is like a boss battle. To get a piece of something that you need how many to build something, right? And so you might say, well, you put that in your inventory, and we have some recipes of what you can build. And it'll have to get moved along the inventory. And you're going to have to use it for something before it dumps out the bottom. And I'm just checking right now to see if there's, because in the apothecary, there's actually 2 of each of them. I wonder if I think there is not, but I just want to see if my mind is fooling myself. There's also blank ones for a lot of these as well, so that you could add your own things like that. Gyroscope, bucket, observer, pulley system. Yeah, I could already tell it doesn't look like there's any repeats here because I'm almost done. Okay, so we spent that, and we foraged, but what else could we add here? Well, why just get it straight up? I mean, there should be a wager. So, yes, we removed one of these, but that doesn't really do anything, right? By like removing one of these exploration cards, it doesn't really do anything. And so, we keep it face down and we say, I'm going to forage. Well, I say that if you want to do that, you gotta beat the next card. Jack, got it. Now I've got this component. Something, so that if I pull an ace, which is the lowest card, I don't get it. And so now I took away an exploration card. I lost the spirit point, right? Maybe we can say that you can add your max spirit score as a modifier to that check. Right? Or sorry, add your max focus. I should have been doing that all with focus, sorry. There's lots of options here as long as we add in a little bit of wager, risk, reward. And then what about this though? What about like finding, we pull a researcher card covered in ancient carvings. This rook is covered in ancient carvings and languages in a language seemingly lost to time. Well, this opens up some different options for us here. We could treat it that, that's a rook encounter, or we could just use it as an input. I looked in these, I concept mapped them. About 15% of them overtly mention weapons or attacks. The rest are just kind of descriptions of the structure of the rook, of things that it's decorated with. So this could be something that functions a lot like a recipe. Maybe you have a benefactor who is looking for a specific rook. And maybe when we draw that up, we can do a check. Right? Maybe we can, whatever we say, all right, so I saw this rook and I'm going to do a check with it. I lost, which means that this is an actual encounter. I don't have to fight it, but it's treated like one that I would fight. We could tinker with that. We'll see what the balance is. But if we beat this, then maybe we just got a sighting of this. We take some notes. We do a little sketch. And next time we go to the town, we go to whatever guild is looking for information on rooks, sell that for 3 treasures. All right. So are you starting to see the possibilities? With a success, you gain a narrative or mechanical bonus. And on a failure, you gain nothing and you lose the point. You wagered it and you have to now recover it. Okay. So we can call it like a challenge card. You could draw it. This might be difficult to manage this, but you could draw a challenge card off the top of the deck. This is... I don't see how that would mess up the flow or the balance of cards by just introducing that, because, you run out, you just shuffle or whatever. That's how playing cards work. I don't know why I'm explaining this. You can use combat or exploration as modifiers for that, or you can use the max, focus, or spirit as modifiers. Now, in combat, you can have it be something that is used as an interrupt mechanic, or you can use it as something that adds an additional effect to your successful attack. You can stun the rook and it can't use a card the next round. You can hobble the rook so that it's -3 on every diamond. You can knock something loose. If you pass the challenge card, then you knock a treasure falls out or gears fall out. If you deflect a blow, you avoid a full wound, but you have to discard an inventory item. By just adding an inventory limit and this additional stat and this challenge mechanic, we suddenly have some things that makes it feel like our choices matter. Now, I'm sorry if this, it's still a little bit cooking right now, because the thing I haven't figured out is, do I want to go through with it? Is it worth it? Does it sound like it's worth it, or does it sound like homebrew rules? I don't know. I need to see like people out there who do play Colossal, who do enjoy it. Is there any hunger for this? Or is this me like doing solo game imperialism? Am I coming into your nice Colossal game that's just right, the way that you like it, and I go, oh, yeah. Am I like bar rescue? What are you doing? You don't have a focus stat. Get that out of there, right? And it's like, nobody asked you. I don't know. But either way, I hope it was at least a productive discussion. If there is like an interest in that, I can, craft something up. There is an open game license. I could, create just like a little something, like a supplement. I could do a playthrough. I know that people really want playthroughs, but I just don't. It's very confusing, the relationship that people have. Is it confusing? I don't know. I'll just speak plainly right now because of the depth we are into this video. But there's a big desire for Colossal playthrough. You know, I've stated before that there's this like little thing on my YouTube studio that's like, hey, are you interested in seeing like what people who follow your channel want? They and the one of the top ones is always Colossal playthrough. And to me, it's like I don't know if that's the answer, because here's why people like playthroughs. You want to learn the game, or you want to see it in action and you don't quite want to do it yourself. So I guess in that respect, maybe it's like when I just kind of tune my brain out and watch Twitch. Like I just want to watch people game sometimes. Totally fair. But to me, it's like those first two reasons of I want to learn, or I want to someone else to do it because I don't have the time, or I can't get myself. It's such an easy thing to just boot it up and start going. And I rarely say that about games because, in fact, I really hate it when people say that. Like, oh, it's so easy. What are you waiting for? It's like, well, it's easy for you. But this game is one of the things that I've come to appreciate about through this experience, truly was an experience, is that this game is painstakingly simple. It has been taken great care to be as simple as possible. It's not a bug. It's a feature. It's intentional. And I appreciate that. I actually respect that, because there is, every time this game gets brought up, there's at least one person in the comments that's like, my kids love it. And you know what? If you're my age and you're looking like, what should my first game be? You should absolutely be discriminating or discerning. You can not be. You can be discriminating when it comes to your choices about games. Make good decisions. Your money is hard earned, but if you're 9, you just want to play. You just want to explore. You just want to imagine. And so maybe I'm looking for the value in the wrong place, but I hope I did it justice in as far as like giving a full expression of my many thoughts about this game. And now I will kindly put thee out of thine misery.